The COVID-19 pandemic had a huge impact on the lumber industry, but not in the way that many expected. Instead of a decline in demand for new homes and renovation projects, the opposite happened. People who were stuck at home or working remotely wanted more space, comfort and functionality in their living spaces. They started buying new houses or upgrading their existing ones, creating a surge in demand for lumber and other building materials. But the lumber industry was not prepared for this sudden shift in consumer behavior. When the pandemic hit, many lumber mills reduced their production or shut down temporarily, expecting a recession and a drop in demand. They also faced challenges such as worker safety, COVID-19 outbreaks, labor shortages and transportation bottlenecks. As a result, the supply of lumber could not keep up with the demand, leading to a global shortage and sky-high prices. According to NBC News, the price of lumber rocketed from around $400 per thousand board feet in February 2020 to an all-time high of over $1,600 in early May 2021. Prices have since fallen to the $800 range, but they are still nearly double their pre-pandemic rates. The National Association of Home Builders estimated that the rise in lumber prices added over $36,000 to the cost of a new single-family home. The lumber industry misread the impact of COVID-19 and made a costly mistake. It assumed that housing starts, which is where most lumber goes, would decline during the pandemic. But instead, they increased by 7% in 2020 compared to 2019. The industry also underestimated the resilience and adaptability of consumers who wanted to improve their living conditions during a difficult time. The lumber shortage is a classic case of supply and demand imbalance that followed a massive supply chain disruption due to COVID-19. It is also a result of a decade-long period of underbuilding of new homes since the 2008 financial crisis. The lumber industry is now trying to ramp up production and catch up with demand, but it may take some time before the market stabilizes and prices normalize. One of the main factors that contributed to the lumber futures contract skyrocketing and crashing was the soaring demand for lumber during the pandemic. As people spent more time at home, they started to look for ways to improve their living spaces, either by moving to the suburbs, building new homes, or renovating their existing ones. According to the National Association of Home Builders, single-family home construction jumped 12% in 2020, and remodeling activity climbed 7%. Meanwhile, many homeowners took up DIY projects that involved lumber, such as adding decks, repairing fences, and even building treehouses. Low interest rates and a desire for more space also fueled the demand for housing. However, the supply of lumber could not keep up with this surge in demand. Many sawmills shut down or slowed down production in the early months of the pandemic, both for health reasons and because they expected demand to plummet. The price of raw timber did not change much, but the price of processed lumber soared from $349 per thousand board feet in April 2020 to $1,514 in May 2021. This was a record high that made lumber one of the most expensive commodities in the market. The high cost of lumber added thousands of dollars to the price of new homes and renovations, making them less affordable for many buyers. It also created challenges for builders, who had to deal with supply shortages, delivery delays, and volatile prices. Some builders had to pause or cancel projects because of the prohibitive cost of wood. The lumber bubble eventually burst as supply and demand started to balance out. Sawmills ramped up production and some people returned to their workplaces, reducing their spending on home improvement. The futures price of lumber dropped by more than 60% from May to July 2021. However, prices are still higher than pre-pandemic levels and remain subject to fluctuations. The lumber industry is now facing a new challenge, a shortage of workers. The supply of lumber struggled to catch up with the demand, leading to a global shortage and sky-high prices that added thousands of dollars to the cost of new homes. Here's how it happened. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, lumber mills were forced to close or reduce their production due to lockdowns, safety protocols, and worker shortages. They expected that the demand for lumber would also drop as the economy slowed down and people stayed at home. However, they were wrong. Instead of cutting back on their spending, many people who had jobs and income to spare decided to buy new homes or renovate their existing ones. They wanted more space, comfort, and privacy in their living environment, especially as they worked remotely or spent more time indoors. Some also took up woodworking as a hobby or a DIY project. This surge in demand for lumber caught the industry off guard. There was not enough supply to meet the growing needs of home builders, renovators, and hobbyists. The result was a massive imbalance between supply and demand that drove up the price of lumber to unprecedented levels. According to industry data, the price of lumber soared from around $400 per thousand board feet in February 2020 to an all-time high of over $1,600 in May 2021. That's a 300% increase in just over a year. The price hike affected not only softwood lumber, which is used for framing houses, but also plywood, OSB, and other wood products. The high cost of lumber added thousands of dollars to the cost of new homes. The National Association of Home Builders estimated that the rise in lumber prices had added over $36,000 to the cost of a new single-family home in April 2021. This made housing less affordable and accessible for many Americans who were already facing a tight market with low inventory and high competition. The lumber shortage and price spike also had ripple effects on other sectors of the economy, such as furniture, appliances, packaging, and transportation. It contributed to inflation and supply chain disruptions that affected consumers and businesses alike. The situation has improved somewhat since May 2021, as lumber prices have fallen to around $800 per thousand board feet in June 2021. This is still nearly double the pre-pandemic level, but it reflects some signs of recovery and adjustment in the market. Lumber mills have ramped up their production and some people have reduced their spending on home improvement as they return to work or travel. However, experts say that the lumber market may never return to normal, as the pandemic has changed the dynamics of supply and demand for wood products.